Hello, everyone. Harry Baldock here, editor at Total Telecom, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Kevin Hasley, CEO of RootMetrics by IHS Markit. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Harry?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. We're here today to talk about 5G, especially as it relates to the South Korean market. So I wanted to start by asking you a fairly broad question. South Korea is often considered to be the most advanced market in the world when it comes to 5G. Do you think that's a fair appraisal?
I think it is. South Korea has always been an advanced market for all technologies, regardless of 5G or not. LTE was the first to launch in South Korea and other technologies. And the reason why is, there's many factors, but the government in South Korea also wants to advance that country's appetite for advanced technologies, including everything outside of telecom as well. So when you look at the market in total around everything in advancing as an advanced market, 5G is one of those pillars that they're relying on to actually enable all types of advanced marketplace systems and services that South Korea just really takes pride upon. So I would say, yes, that's fair appraisal.
You've touched upon it there, actually, but I wanted to ask you about why the South Korean market as an environment is so well placed when it comes to 5G. Is that purely down to the government sector emphasis, or are there other factors at play there?
Yeah, some of it is government, obviously, but also it's just the land mass in general in South Korea. It's very densely populated. You have a lot of close-knit cities that are connected via commuter trains and a system of ways of getting to place in South Korea. And so along those journeys, you also have the ability to put up infrastructure that allows that deployment to go across the country. In many other countries, that's not possible. You have land masses that are protected. You have a miles and miles of rural areas in the U.S. that's just very hard to penetrate. It would cost a lot of money to get that infrastructure out. And so South Korea is such a dense populated. It always has been an easier time. I wouldn't say easy. They would say it's difficult. I agree with them. It is difficult to transition to any technology, but it's a lot more adaptable in that marketplace to launch these and deploy technologies like 5G.
That links quite nicely to my next question, actually, which is really around 5G adoption. Why has the new technology been adopted so quickly? Population density, as you mentioned, is surely a factor, but do you think there's been a different approach to communicating the new technology to the public compared to, for example, the European or North American markets?
One factor is I was there in South Korea many, many times, even when we were doing our testing. And the population is sways a lot younger in South Korea as well, where they adapt new technologies. Look at technologies like esports or whatever. The top teams are coming from South Korea as well. So you got a lot of people used to technology, used to playing with the latest and greatest. And adoption just follows suit of that. When I was there, when they first launched in April, you saw lines and lines around the stores and LGU pop-up stores, for instance, that are signing up for those subscriptions because the commitment and the services that the operators are delivering tells the consumers why 5G is important. That's the most important factor that you can take away and your audience could take away is if you deliver the services bundled with the phone, advanced phone, as well as the advanced services like AR, VR, 4K streaming, Disney Plus, whatever it is, then they're going to come and they're going to adapt to it because it's not possible on phones of today with lower technologies. All those services are only possible in 5G. That's why the adoption is so high. And again, with the population the way it is, they're used to technology. They're used to moving first mover on a lot of these cases. And, that just really shows that the growth potential in South Korea is always going to be there.
So what lessons do you think operators in other markets could really learn from those in South Korea?
Yeah, so I keep on coming back to that one. We just did our webinar. You can go to rootmetrics.com. You can see our webinar that we did in South Korea. And one thing I've always repeated in a lot of cases is the services, right? Some don't know if you bundle the services, because it's very expensive for operators to bundle the services, will they come? And there's been a lot of proof points that the answer is yes. It just depends on the services that you provide. Is it those services that the consumers want to use, want to see? You got a lot of movement around other countries, other operators that are really taking advantage of that philosophy. Is those services, they will come. Some services have failed, especially around the TV aspect, but others really take off. And I think we're in a great time to actually change that, because of how other huge companies are changing the dynamics of what a mobile phone does for consumers. And I'm gonna just take a cue from what Amazon, Microsoft, and Google just released with Stadia, Project X Cloud, and Luna. If you take a look at what they have done, I myself is an iPhone 12 user with AT&T, and I'm playing Amazon Luna. That was never done. And if anybody knows, Luna is a game streaming service that you could do on your mobile phone that has the experience of console gaming. That's really very, very impressive. I'm just sad they don't have Cyberpunk 2077 on there right quite yet, but they have all the latest games, and it's the games that you're used to on console for your mobile phone. So I'm excited to see where operators across the globe really looks and takes 5G, and other things that are happening around 5G, just outside the services like autonomous cars and everything else. I mean, it's just 2021 and 2022. Once we get back past this very difficult time of COVID, you're going to see a lot of really cool stuff coming out and advancements that we're all excited to see.
So I guess finally we'll end on quite another broad question. How meaningful do you think the phrase 5G race is? Do you think that South Korea is going to have a lot of really tangible benefits that other countries are going to be chasing for quite some time?
Not necessarily. I see the race in to deliver the fastest speeds. That is a race that always is going to be there to deliver the fastest speeds in the world. And South Korea, if you looked at our results, they have some extraordinary medium speeds alone with over 400 megabits per second. However, I think the key point that everybody needs to take away is you got to get the base out there of 5G. You got to get it everywhere. You got to get the availability up to high percentages, because what's going to come from that is the thing that's going to really be the driver of race. It's really not a 5G race. It's a technology experience race where you're trying to deliver, autonomous cars, V2X, robotics, autonomous enterprises, even ISPs, and doing that via wirelessly across 5G. What COVID has taught us, if it could teach us one thing, a lesson learned, is the aspects of work from home change the dynamics of what's needed at home, and not even at home, but how to be away from the office and still do everything you need to do as you're at the office. And what 5G will give us is that capability of not thinking that I have to be tied to a desktop to do that. For instance, we're recording on Zoom right now. It can't really necessarily be done on a mobile phone with LTE, because you're going to hear some stutters, you're going to hear the buffering, you're not going to see my 4K camera right now. But what we do is, if you have your mobile phone docked as a hotspot connected, you could do the Zoom meeting anywhere. Instead of my background that you see today with a little scene, you can really see the beach. You don't need a virtual setting. You could be at the beach and still do your Zoom meeting with the most effective audio and video that's out there.
Definitely a really exciting time for 5G, and we look forward to 2021. Kevin, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. No problem. Thanks, Harry.